we begin with the lecture. So welcome students, welcome to lecture number 20, where we are going to continue module number 3, income under head profits and gains from business and profession, under subject direct taxation. So already we have covered all the theory related aspects of this particular module, and we are dealing with problems on computation of income from business and profession of individual SSE. And this we have one problem of it which we have already seen in lecture number 19. Today we will be continuing with the problems on computation of income from business and profession. So we'll be dealing with few more problems. Before beginning with the problems, as I always revise this particular slide because it is very important to solve the problems. So how are we supposed to compute the profits and gains from business and profession? Is first you have to take net profit as per the statement of P&L account. To that you need to add all the expenses which are debited to the P&L account, but actually they are disallowed, they are not allowed, so you're adding it back. Then you have to deduct all the expenditures which are actually allowed, but they were not debited to the P&L account. When I say debited, that means all the expenses. Then we have to deduct all the incomes which are taxable under some other head, but they were credited to the P&L account. And then we need to add deemed income. Majorly under deemed income, we have all those incomes which is a part of business and profession, but they had not been credited to the P&L account. And majorly here we have recovery of bad debts. So once we plus minus all these figures with the net profit as per statement of P&L account, we get profits and gains from business or profession. And this is the amount on which we need to pay tax or calculate the tax payable by the SSE. So we know what is the method of calculating taxable profits. So we know what are all the items that needs to be debited to P&L account, items that need to be credited to the P&L account, and items that should neither be debited or credited to P&L account. That means these are those items which are to be disallowed, which are to be excluded in considering your profits and gains from business and profession. This slide we had already seen in our previous lecture, but this is just for you all to revise before we start beginning with the other problems on profits and gains of business and profession. So let us continue with seeing the sums or problems on profits and gains and business or profession. We had already finished with the problem number 1. Moving ahead to problem number 2. Students, pay attention. It is very simple solving problems on profits and gains from business or profession. If you know the format, if you know what is allowed, what is disallowed, then you just need to put those items in the format. You will get the right answer. Okay, let us begin. Following is the profit and loss account of Mr. Chetan for the year ended 31/3/2020. So when they say the following is a profit and loss account, then you need to know that on the debit side, that is on the left hand side, whatever items are being specified, they are your expenses, and on the right hand side, whatever items are specified, they are your incomes. So we first start solving the problem taking the expenses, okay, and just analyzing item wise item to see whether they are allowed or disallowed based on if some additional information about that particular item is given or no. So this is the procedure that you need to follow. Okay, so first when we solve the problem, what are we supposed to take? We are supposed to take the net profit as per the P&L account. So simultaneously we will solve the solution also. So our answer begins with computation of profits and gains of business or profession of Mr. Chetan for the assessment year 2020-2021. So we always start the problem by taking the net profit as per P&L account, directly taking it from the question given, that is 2 lakh. 94,500. So we have taken this from the question itself. Next, let us analyze the expenses. Now students, tell me, to rent. Is rent a business expenditure or a non-business expenditure? Or we need to also see that if any information about rent is given in the additional information for us to analyze whether it is a business or a non-business expenditure. So rent is actually a business rent, considering or assuming there is no additional information given. So we'll check if any additional information about rent is given. Yes, the first information is rent includes 12,000 belonging to SSE himself. That means 12 out of 60,000 rent, 12,000 is belonging to the SSE himself, means for his personal use or maybe for his personal premises for his house. So out of 60,000, 12,000 is for his personal use. So can you all tell me, students, how much is allowed and how much is disallowed? So what is
48 is allowed by.
Ma'am, 12,000 is disallowed.
very good. So, and you all know that in the main answer we have to give effect to only that portion which is disallowed. If it is allowed means already effect has been given. So what we will do, add expenditure disallowed but debited to P&L account. Full 60,000 was debited to P&L account, but we have to add back that portion which is disallowed. So rent for premises owned by the SSE, 12,000 is disallowed. That is why we have added this figure here. So our first expense is completed. Moving ahead to the next, rates. To rates, it is 6,000. Usually rates is a business expenditure, but let us see if there is any additional information given in respect of rates. So just let us go through. This is rent, which we have already covered. So I'll put it in yellow. Then the next is salary, loan, sundry expenses, entertainment, loss of debt, rates. Okay. Now you have your rates include 4,000 for property let out. Now you tell me, students, property let out, is it a business income or is it a house property income? When you're letting out a property, does that become your business income or it becomes a house property income? Quick, students.
House property income.
House property income, ma'am.
So if the rates are being if the rates is including 4,000 for house property, how much is allowed and how much is disallowed? Because we are calculating profits and gains from business and profession. So tell me, the entire 6,000, is it allowed?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am. Only
Then how
4,000
much
is
is
allowed.
disallowed?
Only 4,000.
2,000.
2,000.
4,000 will be disallowed because it is not an expenditure relating to your business or profession. So we have disallowed 4,000 rupees. Moving ahead. Salary to staff is 54,000. Now, if there is no additional information, full salary to the staff, we will assume it, and we will obviously staff word is used. So it is a business expenditure. It is completely allowed. But before taking a decision, you just need to check whether any information about it is given in the additional information. Okay. Students, here, salary of a staff includes salary of rupees 24,000 of a son who is BCom and gradually helps in business. So out of the salary 54,000, he is paying 24,000 to his son who is only a BCom graduate and who is just helping him gradually in the business. He is not appointed in the business as such. He's just gradually helping him in the business. And proprietor's salary is 1,000 per month. Proprietor's salary is 1,000. Who is a proprietor? Mr. Chetan. He is paying himself salary of 1,000 per month. He is paying his son salary, who is just gradually helping him in the business and who is only a BCom graduate, 24,000. Now tell me, students, we have seen in the provisions that if any salary is paid in excess or unnecessarily to a relative or to himself, it will be allowed or disallowed. It is going to be disallowed. Reason, it is going to be disallowed. Reason being, here he could have written even 54,000 to a son. Suppose if the son is qualified, he's regularly helping his dad in his business, then we can say that this is allowed. But here there is no genuinity, so it is disallowed. And proprietor salary, he himself is paying himself salary in the business. So how can such expenditure be allowed? So it is, these two are disallowed. So out of 54,000, this two we have to disallow. So let us see the main answer. Salary to son, 24,000 is disallowed. And salary to the proprietor. Now proprietor means Chetan himself is paying himself salary. Okay, 1,000 per month. So in the entire year it becomes 12,000. 1,000 into 12. So this is disallowed. The remaining is allowed. Okay, next. To Diwali Puja expenses 2,000. Yesterday also we had seen this particular transaction. So tell me students, Diwali Puja expenses, is it allowable expenditure or disallowable expenditure? Is Diwali Puja expenses relating to the business?
No, ma'am.
Correct. So this 2,000 rupees is to be disallowed, and if it is to be disallowed, we need to write it here. Diwali Puja expenses 2,000, it is disallowed because there is no genuinity. You can even, if the expenses were even 900 rupees, you're still writing 2,000 rupees. You have nothing to back it up. Next, to interest on loan is how much? 1,25,000. Actually, interest on loan, if you don't see the additional information, you will consider it as a loan taken for business purpose. But just to support your answer, you just need to check the additional information if any information about interest on loan is given. So point number 3, loan of 60,000 at 15% per annum is taken from his wife out of the funds advanced by him, and the interest is included in interest on loan. So what they are telling here is, this interest on loan also has an interest which he is paying to his wife. Okay, on the amount that the wife is advancing, 60,000 amount the wife had given him, and 15% per annum is the interest that the wife is charging. So 60,000 into 15%. So what is the interest amount? 9,000 interest he is paying to his wife. 60,000 into 15%. So it becomes 9,000. So 9,000 interest is paying to his wife. Now you tell me students, if he is paying interest to his wife, will it be an allowable expenditure or disallowable expenditure?
Disallowable.
Ma'am, disallowable.
Very good students. Disallowable. That is why we are going to write interest on loan by wife is 9,000 rupees, which is completely disallowed. The remaining will be allowed, and if it is allowed, we need not give any effect in the main answer because already effect has been given. Okay, next. To sundry expenses is 55,000. Now students, without seeing the additional information, sundry expenses is obviously a business expenditure. We will consider it to be a business expenditure, but let us see if any further information is given. Okay, sundry expenses include 9,000 being expenses incurred on pilgrimage to Haridwar. Okay, so Mr. Chetan is going to an pilgrimage to Haridwar where he's spending 9,000 rupees. Okay, now you all tell me students, if Mr. Chetan is spending 9,000 rupees and is going to Haridwar for not for business purpose but for some pilgrimage, tell me whether it is a business expenditure, allowable, disallowable.
Ma'am, disallowable.
Out of 55,000, we are going. we are going to disallow 9,000. So sundry expenses 9,000 is going to be completely disallowed. Reason, you all know it is a personal expenditure, not a business expenditure. So this is the way you all need to step by step go solving the problem. Okay, next, two bad debts 6,000. Now bad debts is an allowable expenditure, students, but we'll just check if any information about bad debts is given. It is allowable expenditure, so there is no information also given. So bad debts is an allowable expenditure, so we will not have any adjustment for it, because allowable expenditures, there is no adjustment to be given in the main answer. Next, to charity or to donation, we have seen in a previous problem also. Tell me, charity, if the business is doing some charity donations, is it an allowable expenditure or a disallowable expenditure? Suppose you might have given,
Disallowable.
very good, very good. So your charity becomes a disallowable expenditure. So we are going to add it back to the net profit. Next, two reserves for bad debts. Even in my yesterday's problem, we had seen that bad debts is an allowable expenditure, but provision for bad debts, reserves for bad debts, is it allowable expenditure or a disallowable expenditure? See, bad debts means you know that you're not going to, it is an irrecoverable amount of the debtors, but you cannot keep money aside or you cannot create a reserve for that irrecoverable amount. It is disallowed. Therefore, reserve for bad debts or provision for bad debts will be disallowed expenditure. Therefore, we need to add it back. The logic is very simple, because bad debts itself is irrecoverable. You cannot keep some amount aside, okay, for something which is irrecoverable, because bad debts, it's see in itself only is the loss, where that is why only bad debts is an allowable expenditure. Any amount you're keeping aside for that particular loss is disallowed. Next, to entertainment 8,500. If you just see it like this without seeing the additional information, to entertainment means what? These expenses include those expenses which are usually spent on the clients or the customers, okay, in order to get some business. So you take them for dinner parties, or there is a lunch meetings, okay, you entertainment there, you entertain the clients or customers in order to get the business. So if we just see to entertainment, it becomes a business expenditure, but we'll see if there is some additional information given. So entertainment includes 1,500 spent on tea of some guest of a local MLA. So is this relating to business? Are they telling that it is spent on a customer for promoting the business or for getting the business? So tell me, students, if Mr. Chetan spends some amount on tea of a guest of a local MLA, is it a business expenditure or a non-business expenditure?
On business.
So this 1,500, we need to add it back to the net profit. Okay, next. To loss by theft. So it is 14,000. There was some robbery, which is 14,000. Now, let us see whether any information about it is given. If no information is given, we assume it that the robbery is taken place in the business premises. So let us see first any additional information is given or no. Yes, loss of theft took place when somebody pretending to be a customer stole a necklace worth rupees 6,000 in a shop. So out of this 14,000, 6,000 worth rupees necklace was being stolen by some customer. So in his shop, means this 6,000 rupees loss or theft is taken place in his business premises, and 8,000 was stolen from his house in the night. So out of this 14,000, 6,000 was in his robbery taken place in his shop, and 8,000 was a robbery taken place at his home. So tell me, students, how much is allowed and how much is disallowed?
8,000 is disallowed.
1,000 is
Disallowed. 8,000 is disallowed because it is taken at home, the robbery. So we have added back this 8,000 rupees. Now moving ahead, we have completed. Now to sales tax penalty is there 10,000. Students, let me tell you, any penalty, okay, that is made. Sales tax penalty is nothing but the GST penalty. Now, what government says that whatever GST you are paying, okay, the tax that you are supposed to pay, it is relating to the goods and services, that too of relating of your business, it is allowed. But any penalty relating to the tax you were supposed to pay will be completely disallowed. So this sales tax penalty of 10,000 is going to be completely disallowed. Okay, I have not taken it here, but penalty of any kind is going to be disallowed. Otherwise, people will not pay tax. Okay, and their penalty also, they will incur penalty because of not paying tax, and they will simply take the benefit of it while paying the income tax. So penalty of sales tax 10,000 rupees is to be considered. So it becomes 94,500 plus 294,500, that comes to 3,89,000. Okay. Now next, let us see if any additional information is left. GST tax paid and depreciation not taken into account to profit and loss account. So tell me, students, GST tax, whatever is being paid, is it a business tax or is it a personal tax? GST,
Business, ma'am.
business tax. So actually it had to be taken in the P&L account. It has not been taken. So yes, we are going to less expenditure allowed but not debited to P&L account, that is GST tax paid of rupees 5,000. So this we are going to deduct it. Why? Because it was not debited to P&L account. Next, depreciation, students. Now depreciation, is it a business expenditure or you do depreciation on your home assets?
It's a business expenditure, ma'am.
Depreciation as per Income Tax Act is a business expenditure. It is allowable. So we take depreciation also here. Why we are taking it here? Simply because it is not being debited to the P&L account, which actually should have been debited to the P&L account, that is 13,000. So this becomes 4,02,000. Okay, next. Now we have completed with all the expenses side. Now let us come to the income side. Now students, gross profit. Obviously, gross profit is derived from the trading P&L account. Trading account has all the business related items. Therefore, gross profit is business related. Interest on debtors. Debtors arises only when you are doing credit sales. So obviously, when there is a sales, that means it is a business related. So it is correctly credited to the P&L account. Next, rent from property. It is an income. But tell me, students, rent from property, should it come here in business or profession, or should it have been come in the house property income?
House property.
house property income.
So we have to give effect to this wrongly credited income. So to give effect, we will going to deduct incomes not taxable under business head, or you can write your income not chargeable to tax or chargeable to tax under some other head. So rent from property we have written 24,000. Next. By sundry income, let us see you have to also keep on checking the additional information. Now all our additional information is already marked in yellow, which means we have covered all the additional information. So assuming no additional information about incomes are given, so we will just, so by sundry income, since no additional information is given, we are assuming it is 100% related to your business, so no effect is to be given because it is allowed. By commission, no additional information is given, so assuming it to be for the business, therefore we are allowing it. By dividend, tell me students, dividend is a business income to only those who are dealing in shares or in the stock market. But here, since no specifically Mr. Chetan, they have not specified what type of business he's into. So whatever dividend is he receiving, is it a business income or income from other sources?
Income from other sources.
From other source.
Income from other source, therefore dividend we have to deduct because it has to be not chargeable to tax under this particular head. So again, we add 30, we deduct 34,000 from 4,02,000. So we get 3,68,000. So this becomes your profits and gains from business. I'm not writing profession because he's carrying out a business. So therefore profits and gains from business is 3,68,000, and this will be chargeable to tax, which has to be paid by Mr. Chetan. So have you all understood this particular sum, students?
Ma'am?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yeah, anyone has any doubt?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, please go to the solution, ma'am.
Yeah, tell me.
Ma'am, 3,89,000 we should got as after that 13,000 we should deduct or add, ma'am.
We have to deduct.
Expense. Then
Deduct,
you
sorry.
added. Then
Okay,
you
okay.
added,
So
ma'am.
sorry. We have to deduct. So it becomes 3,76,000. And then we have to deduct 34,000. So that becomes 3,42,000. Just because I just skipped to take this in the main answer, that is why the problem was there. Okay. Is this clear?
Okay, ma'am.
Because these were the expenditures which are allowed but they are not debited. So when we actually go to debited, we have to deduct these expenditures from P&L account in order to get the correct profit from business. Is this clear, students?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now moving ahead to the next problem. Now students, I think you all have understood how to go by solving the problems based on the provisions, and what is allowed, disallowed in detail. I will be also giving you all in the notes, so it will become easy for you all. So solving the next problem, from the following particulars of Mr. Court, for the year ended 31st March 2020, find out his taxable income from business for the assessment year 2020-2021. Okay, now here they have given all the expenses which we can see, and on the right hand side they have given all your incomes. Okay, so before starting the problem, let us see that first in the main answer we need to take the net profit as per P&L account, which is given as 2,58,000. So we begin the main answer as computation of profits and gains of business or profession of Shri Court for the assessment year 2020-2021. So we start by taking the net profit as per P&L account, that is 2,58,000. Now what we need to do is step by step we need to see each expense and check whether some additional information of that particular expense is given, then take a decision whether it is allowed, disallowed, and adjust it in the main answer if it is disallowed. So starting to opening stock. To opening stock, it is 1,20,000. Now let us see if any information about opening stock is given in the problem. So your interest on loan is given, bad debts, provident fund, stock. Stock is undervalued by 10%. Now, when they say stock is undervalued by 10%, you have to consider both opening stock as well as closing stock is being undervalued by 10%. Now, students, I've already, regarding the stock adjustment, I've already covered in my previous lecture that what is the meaning of undervalued. That means here the stock is showing 1,20,000, but this is not the actual value. This value has been, whatever is the actual value, it is being shown less than the actual value. So how to solve about or give adjustment to opening stock is, first we need to find out the actual value of opening stock. Then we need to calculate 10% of the actual value. That will be the undervalued amount. And then we need to give adjustment to it. So let us see first adjustment of opening stock. See, undervaluation of opening stock. Okay. Now, how to calculate the actual value of opening stock? We have seen in our formula. What we have to do is whatever is the value of opening stock into 100 divided by 100 minus the rate of undervaluation. So rate of undervaluation in the problem, it is given 10%. Therefore, we have taken 1,20,000 into 100 divided by 100 minus 10. When you solve this particular equation, you get 1,33,333 as the actual value of your opening stock. Now, we are not concerned with the actual value. We need to know that by how much is it undervalued. See, actually the opening stock is how much? The actual value should have been 1,33,333, but it is how much? 1,20,000. It is shown in the books as 1,20,000. So tell me, students, by how much it is undervalued? Either you can minus 1,33,333 minus 1,20,000, you will get by how much it is undervalued, or simply take 10% of 1 lakh, that is the actual value of opening stock, 1,33,333. So you get 13,333. So the opening stock is undervalued by 13,333. So we will give effect to it that whenever opening stock is undervalued, you have to deduct it. Why? Because so much amount is not being debited to the P&L account while calculating net profit. Therefore, we are minusing. So therefore, undervaluation of opening stock is 13,333. Now, why I have written it here? Because adjustment of valuation of stock, you separately show in the solution. After finishing, before deemed profits, you can show this separately. That is the reason I have shown it here below. Similarly, we will solve also by opening stock. We'll complete the stock portion. So opening stock also is undervalued by 10%. So how do we do the working of it? Actual value of closing stock. How do we calculate the actual value? Take the value as per the P&L account into 100 divided by 100 minus 10. If it is undervalued, you have to use your minus. If it is overvalued, you have to use your plus sign. So when we solve this particular thing, we get that the actual value of closing stock is 2,22,322. Now, students, actually the closing stock should have been 2,22,322, but we have shown in the P&L account 2 lakh rupees. So tell me, students, by how much it is undervalued? Either you can take 10% of 2,22,322, you will get the answer, or if you minus 2,22,322 by 2 lakh, you will get also the amount by which it is undervalued, which is 22,322. So if your income is undervalued and if you have to bring it back, okay, bring the correct adjustment to the net profit, you have to add it back. So add undervaluation of closing stock, which we have shown in the working number 8, that is 222,222. Now see, plus this you have to plus, this you have to minus. Plus minus, you're going to minus it with the plus symbol. I hope you all know this 7th standard. I think you all have studied this. This is in plus, this is in minus. So what you will do, take in the outer column, you will minus the both with the plus sign because plus is highest. Okay. So we have completed the stock portion. Did everyone understand the stock portion? Because this was a new thing in the problem which we did. Theory we had completed, but this is first time the theory we put it in the, solved it in the problems. Did you all understand this?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Next is purchases. Purchases, we have an amount, okay, but let us see. Obviously purchases is going to be business purchases without paying attention to the additional information, but let us just go through the if any additional information is given. So let us go through that. Interest on loan will not be here. Bad debts will not be here. Unrecognized gifts received, outstanding customs duty, this is embezzlement, traveling, rent, general expenses. Okay, there is no information about purchases given. So obviously purchase is a business expenditure. So tell me students, is this allowable or disallowable? Purchases that you're making for the business, is it an allowable expenditure or disallowable expenditure?
Allowable.
Allowable.
So if it is an allowable expenditure, we are not going to give any treatment of it in the main answer. Okay. Next, salaries. Salaries 25,000. Without seeing the additional information, tell me students, salaries, is it an allowable or a disallowable expenditure?
Allowable expense.
But just to check if any additional information is given, we'll just quickly go through if any additional information is given about salary. Point number 10, that is general expenses includes. So not salary. So there is no information about salary given students.
Ma'am, what is that salary of total?
See, this they are telling that general expenses includes salary. So here there might be an, see here, there is some general expenses. So this general expenses is including salary of some domestic servant. So this is not covered in this particular heading. Are you all understanding?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, so no additional information about salaries given, and salaries, assuming it is a business expenditure, so we are not going to give effect to it. Next, legal expenses is 10,000. Now legal expenses, we consider it to be a business expenditure because legal expenses are expenses, maybe fighting a particular business case in the court or giving an advocate a particular amount for solving some issue relating to business. But let us just quickly see if some additional information about legal expenses is given. So point number 1, no, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, there is no information about legal expenses is given. Therefore, legal expenses is, we are treating it to be a business expenditure. Therefore, we are not going to give any effect to it in the main answer. Next is bad debts. Now tell me students, bad debts is an allowable or a disallowable expenditure?
Allowable.
But then let us see if any information about bad debts is given. Bad debts is 100% allowable, no issues in that. But let us see. Okay, now see students here. This is something relating to bad debts, but this bad debts will be 100% allowed. But let us see this particular information. During the previous year 15-16, SSC had claimed 45,000 as bad debts, out of which only 35,000 was allowed. During the previous year, he recovers 25,000. What does this mean, students? This sentence, what does it mean? It means that in the 15-16 previous year, they had shown 45,000 as bad debts, which was only 35,000 was allowed, means 10,000 was disallowed, and whatever was allowed, 35,000, out of that he recovers how much? 25,000. So he had taken the benefit of it he had deducted that bad debts amount as we have deducted this 5,000 year. So that year they had deducted 35,000, but he has recovered those amount. Recovered means that bad debts is no more a bad debts. So that it is a recovery of bad debts, and recovery of bad debts is your deemed profits, and deemed profits is supposed to be added to your net profit in order to derive at the correct profits and gains from business or profession. Now, what is the recovery amount? We have to see point number 10. Students, out of 45,000 was actually the bad debts amount. Out of 45,000, 35,000 was allowed. So how much was disallowed? 10,000. And he has recovered how much? 25,000. So net recovery is how much? 15,000. So 15,000 is recovery of bad debts, which is your deemed profits. Why it is your deemed profit? Because earlier you had taken a benefit of it by deducting that amount from your net profit. Now, since you have recovered that amount back, you have to add it back to your net profit. The theory of this we have already seen. Let us see point number 10. So we have seen as per section 41 subsection 4, where a deduction has been allowed in respect of bad debts or part of debt which is allowed under section 36(1). Then if the amount is subsequently recovered on any such part or a part is greater than the difference between the debt or the part of debt and the amount so allowed, the excess shall be the deemed to be profits and gains of business or profession. So this in short means nothing. This means that in any year, if you have taken the benefit of bad debts as an expenditure and later you're recovering back that amount, that becomes your deemed profit. So we have completed this portion as well. Next, rent. Tell me students, rent, is it an allowable expenditure or disallowable expenditure? If I'm paying rent for my business premises, here since nothing is given, but we assume it to be business rent unless and until we read the additional information. So tell me students, rent what you're paying is allowable or disallowable?
Allowable.
Allowable.
Allowable. But then quickly we will go through the adjustments to see whether it is allowable or disallowable. Point number 9, you have rent includes expenditure on extension of a shed on rented building, 26,000. However, such extension was completed on 1/5/2019 with a total cost of 50,000. So what they are telling is students, this rent of 50,000 includes 26,000, which is a rent on the expenditure on extension of a shed. Now tell me students, extension of a shed, is it a capital expenditure or revenue expenditure? I request students to kindly mute your audio, and whoever wants to answer can just unmute it. So tell me students, rent is including some amount which is an expenditure on extension of a shed on rented building. Suppose you're doing some major extension of your business area by putting a shed. Is it a capital expenditure or revenue expenditure? Quick students.
Ma'am, capital expenditure.
And tell me, any expenditure relating to capital expenditure, is it allowed, disallowed? In my previous, not even in my previous, in my this lecture only, I have shown you a slide where capital expenditures and personal expenditures are to be completely disallowed and only revenue expenditures are allowable. So out of 50,000, 26,000 is to be disallowed. Why? Because it is a capital expenditure. So expenditure on extension of a building shed is to be disallowed. We will see point number 5. Point number 5 says that extension of a building shed is an expenditure of a capital nature. Hence, it is to be disallowed. Are you all understanding, students? Students, here, if items that should neither be debited or credited to P&L account, that means it should be disallowed, is any expenditure of capital nature or personal expenditures are to be disallowed. That's the reason we are not going to. Okay, is it clear? Is this rent portion clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, next, to interest on loan. Interest on loan is 2,500. But let us see if some additional information is given. Assuming it is a business expenditure, we would have allowed it. But let us see if some additional information is given. Interest on loan is paid to a brother of court for a loan taken for the payment of advance income tax. Now, students, you will tell me whether this 2,500 will it be allowable or disallowable? And if yes, if it is disallowed, tell me the reason why. Quick.
Disallowable.
Why
Disallowable.
disallowed?
Relatives.
Advance income tax, first of all, is a personal expenditure. Second of all, brother who is taking a loan from brother who is a relative. So again, it is a disallowed expenditure. So interest on loan is a disallowed expenditure. Therefore, we are adding it back. The same explanation what you all are giving, you have to just write in the point number 4, that interest on loan taken for payment of advance tax is disallowed. You can write the reason. 2 reasons are there. Okay, next is depreciation. Tell me, depreciation allowable, disallowable?
Allowable, ma'am.
As per Income Tax Act, it is allowable. If it is calculated as per Income Tax Act, no additional information given, it is allowable, no treatment to be given. Next, quickly tell me, income tax paid, is it an allowable, disallowable expenditure? Income tax,
Disallowable.
why disallowable?
Ma'am, tax is paid after treatment of all the incomes from other heads, ma'am. After calculation of total income.
So it is a personal tax that you're paying, income tax, therefore disallowable. So what you can write is notes, like you can back up your answer by giving the reasoning. So you can write your notes. So point number 1, income tax is specifically disallowed under section 40 subsection A. Okay, next. Outstanding custom duty is how much? 25,000. Now obviously custom duty is also allowable, but let us see whether any additional information is given. Outstanding custom duty has been paid on 31/12/2020. Will it be allowed or disallowed? What is our previous year? Students, our previous year starts from 1/4/2019 to 31/3/2020. Now, when is this custom duty paid? Is it paid during the previous year? Or is it paid in the...
No, ma'am.
No. So if it is not paid, if it is an expenditure which is not paid in the previous year, how can you take the benefit of it in the previous year? Therefore, will you allow it or disallow it?
Ma'am, disallow.
Disallow. Therefore, we are disallowing this outstanding custom duty. And this will be allowable expenditure in the next previous year. When 2020, 2021 will be the previous year, this particular expenditure will be allowable. Next, to advertisement, 2,000 rupees. Now, to promote your business, you do advertisement. It is an allowable expenditure. But let us just check if some additional information is there quickly. So there is no additional information about advertisement given. So we take it as a business expenditure and allow it. Next, to legal expenses, 12,000. Tell me, students, whether it is an business expenditure. Yes, but we have to also check the additional information just to back up our answer. So there is, we have completed this point. So I'll just put it in yellow. Okay. Any expense on legal expenses is given? Information, there is no information about legal expenses given, so we treat it as a business expenditure, allowable. Next, contribution towards unrecognized provident fund, 5,000. Now tell me, students, whenever any SSC is contributing to unrecognized provident fund, will he get the benefit of it? This provident fund is not recognized at all. So can he claim a deduction of it? So the answer is no, because it is unrecognized. Even we'll see what is the additional information. Contribution towards unrecognized provident fund was paid within time. Though it was paid within time, since it is not recognized, it is an unrecognized provident fund which is not recognized by the government, and you're contributing to that particular provident fund 5,000 rupees, it will be completely disallowed. Therefore, contribution towards provident fund will be disallowed. What is the reason behind that? Because it is unrecognized. Point number 3, let us check. Contribution to unrecognized provident fund is disallowed because it is not a recognized provident fund. If it was a recognized provident fund and the payment was made within time, then we would have allowed it. But since it is unrecognized, we will not allow it. Next, general expenses is how much? 17,500. Now let us actually, without seeing the additional information, this 17,500 is allowable. But let us quickly see if there is some information given. General expenses include salary of 1,200 paid to domestic servant. Now tell me students, salary paid to domestic servant, allowable expenditure, disallowable expenditure? Quickly.
Disallowed.
So disallowed. So this salary paid to domestic servant, we are going to completely disallow it, 1,200. Next, general expenses also includes compensation of 2,000 paid for retrenchment of an employee. So when an employee is getting retrenched, okay, and compensation is paid to him, whether it is a business expenditure or a non-business expenditure. When an employee is leaving the organization, or you're removing the employee from the organization because maybe your business is not doing good, or maybe because of the crisis or cost budgeting, you're removing it, you're paying him a compensation of 2,000. Will it be allowed? Is the employee related to the business or no?
Yes, ma'am.
So if this is a business expenditure, therefore you're not going to give any effect to this. Okay. So we have completed point number 10 as well. Okay, so we have completed with all the expenses. Okay, now let us quickly see the income side. By sales. Now sales, assuming it is a business sales, no information about sales is given. So sales is allowable. If it is allowable, there is no effect to be given. By profit on sale of import license. So this is a business related profit because it is on the sale of import license. This doesn't come under your house property also, neither does it come under your income from other sources. So, and no information about this is given, so it is a business expenditure, business income. By gift received. Now this we need to check whether why the gift is being received. So let us see if there is some additional information. Gift received was given by a supplier for achieving target sale. That means the business has achieved the target for which a sale for which the gift is being received. So tell me students whether this is a business expenditure or a whether this is a business income or a non-business income.
Business income.
If it is a business income, there is no need to give treatment or to it. Next, by closing stock we have already given the treatment. So we have completed the income side also. Next, we need to check whatever is not highlighted is those expenses which are not debited to the P&L account. Okay. But let us see whether they should have been debited to the P&L account. So let us quickly see. During the previous year, he comes to know, that is Shri Court comes to know that his former employee had embezzled cash of 5,000 on 31/3/2019, which was not accounted for. So students, what is this sentence saying? That there was an employee who did a cash mismanagement of 5,000 rupees. Okay, there is a loss of 5,000 rupees cash which was not accounted for. So should we debit this expense? in the P&L account. There was a loss of cash of 5,000 rupees because of the employee's embezzlement. And this is employees obviously works in a business environment, business premises. Therefore, this loss has taken place in the business premises. So whether we have to debit this to P&L account or no. Yes, we have to debit it in the P&L.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, because and it is not debited. So we have to debit. So less expenditure allowed but not debited to P&L account, embezzlement by the employee, that is 5,000 rupees. Next, so we have covered this portion also. Next, traveling expenses include 50,000 being cost of trip to Singapore by an employee for 10 days. However, only 8 days of trip is useful to business and 2 days are allowed as holiday to the employee. So students, there is a traveling expenses. Okay. Okay, here there was traveling expenses. I think we didn't consider this. To traveling expenses, 1 lakh rupees was there. Out of 1 lakh, 50,000 was a trip spent on an employee who went to Singapore for his business purpose for 8 days. And 2 days was an holiday to an employee. Tell me, it is a allowable expenditure or disallowable expenditure? Out of 1 lakh rupees, 50,000 was given to an employee, okay, to go to Singapore for business purpose only, useful for business, but for 8 days, and remaining allowable. So this is an allowable expenditure because majority out of 10 days, majorly 8 days he is for business purpose, and 2 days they have just given him an holiday so that he can also have his personal experience in Singapore. So that means that majorly he had gone only for the purpose of business, and the remaining 2 days is given as a staff welfare expense, correct? So that he can enjoy. So this is an allowable expenditure. So here point number 12 I have written, traveling expenses shall be fully allowed as trip was for 10 days, out of which 8 days was spent for business purpose and 2 days is treated as staff welfare expenditure, which is allowed under section 37. So students, we have, and then when you plus minus these figures, you get the exact profits and gains from business or profession. So we have completed problem number 3 as well. So hope you all have understood this problem, everyone. Yes, students, have you understood problem number 3?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So the remaining problems we will solve in the next class since we have already exceeded the time. Okay. Thank you so much, students, for patient listening.